We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
We spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit. And today, we're bringing them to you so you can take action immediately and start creating real content momentum.
If you'd like to learn more about how to turn your content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Oh, yeah. Welcome. I hope you are ready because today's episode is about to get magical. And no, today's guest is not David Blaine. No one will be disappearing in today's episode of Content is Profit.
Wow, you just butchered that joke right there.
Let's redo it again.
Okay.
And no, today's guest is not David Blaine. No one will be disappearing during today's episode of Content is Profit.
That's right, even though that would be pretty cool. But today's magic is all about helping people find their superpowers, develop solid belief systems, and upgrading their emotional operating system to keep them progressing towards their personal legends in business and life. I don't know about you, but I think not even Chris Angel can perform that type of magic.
Oh, yeah. Not only that, today's guest is a former professional ballroom competitor, a master NLP practitioner, and a published author of 2 books. We had the pleasure of being on his podcast, and we couldn't be more excited to have him here today sharing the magic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Please welcome host of the Magic for Life podcast and the Harry Potter of personal and business development, Michael Johnson.
Welcome, yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, Michael. It's a pleasure to have you here, my man.
That's the first time I've been called the Harry Potter of.
I know.
My daughter's gonna love that. She's gonna have to watch this episode now.
Hey, I love it. You know, like. Obviously, with the name of your business and podcast, I was so inspired. I'm like, I love magic, you know? This is a very, very fun fact. But when I came to the US and I didn't know much English, right? My language was magic. I learned like 2 magic tricks.
One. He has 1 trick.
I have 1 magic trick, yes. And I would go to the library and when I would see girls walking by, I'll be like, hey, you want to see a magic trick? And that was my opening right there.
That was it.
You know, it was, he was not dropping his pants. So you're just going to put that okay, it's good. It was not that. Just wanted to be clear.
It was a car magic trick. Wow.
Okay.
You just heard this, like, right 0.2 seconds.
Wow.
Michael, I apologize for my brother. But thank you so much for being here. We're so excited.
Dude, Michael, we had the pleasure to be on your show. We're going to leave the links right below here for people to check it out. It's amazing. But why don't you share a little bit of your story? Like, who's Michael? Why you do what you do now?
Oh man, that's a huge question. Well, thanks for the intro. That was awesome. It was exciting and a wild ride. You know, gosh, where to start? You know, back in the day, I used to be a professional ballroom dancer. You guys mentioned that earlier, and I think that's a pretty good place to start. You know, I actually started dancing when I was 5, and really just had an entrepreneurial spirit from the beginning. You know, just kind of like you guys. You know, just selling anything, whatever I could get my hands on. Some ice cream sandwiches, cookies that my grandfather made at his work. You know, and I was like, I'll trade them with the other kids at school. It's good. We'll just get in and do something, right? But I danced all through my upbringing. Worked to be in the professional circuit and danced on the professional circuit for about 10 years, and it was super fun. After that, I went on to coach a whole lot of competitors and serious competitors, became a judge, became an examiner for people that were trying to get their certifications. And I found myself at a competition one weekend that was the first comp I was dancing at when I was a kid. And so I was sitting there reflecting like so many people do. And I just was like, wow, I can't believe I'm judging this. My mentors are on my left. the new champions that were just crowned were on my right, you know, and it was just like one of those surreal moments that kind of gets you thinking. And I think we've all kind of had those moments. And in that moment, I was looking out at the dancers that were trying to impress me.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this can't be it. This isn't it. This can't be the end of the road, right? Like I just spent my entire life working to get to this point, and my impact wasn't really what I was looking to attain and looking to achieve. And I just found myself that weekend. Judging is a very lonely job because you judge and then you go up to your room and eat room service and watch TV until your next judging assignment. And you don't really get to socialize. You don't get to hang with the people. You're not really impacting anybody's life except for the ones you did or didn't mark. And so it was a very long weekend of reflecting by myself. And you know how that goes, you know, when you start asking too many questions, you start getting too many answers. and I started looking back at where I should go and realized, gosh, you know, in order to attain the level that I did attain, about 3 years into my pro career, I was a mess because, you know, here I had made it into the pro ranks, but we were making zero progress. We're making zero progress. We weren't making cuts. Nobody was paying attention to us. We should have been much better. We were supposed to be the new hot thing, and we weren't. And just making no progress. And I found my way into personal development. And as I did, I found one person. And then I was like, well, who trained them? And then I went and found that person. I was like, well, who trained them? And so I went and found that person. And next thing you know, I found my way into NLP. And that was sort of the beginning of it. And then I went on to get my life coaching certifications way back in the day. But all of it was really 100% selfish. So I don't want it to seem like, hey, I'm going to start a career. No, I was a professional dancer. I was a professional athlete, for goodness sakes. And I was just 100% selfish, trying to figure out how to get myself unstuck and how to get myself to get to a place where I was happier. I was performing better. I was being a better athlete. I was a professional, for goodness sakes. And I was doing anything I could. And they said, well, you know, if you really want to do well at this NLP stuff, you should get certified. I was like, fine, if it's going to do the trick, I'll do it. So I was getting certified. So I went through 3 certifications, you know, and they're like, well, you know, you should do some life coaching. That'll probably help you. And I was like, fine. They're like, you should get certified. I'm like, all right, fine. So they're like, well, you have to work with people and actually practice this stuff to get certified. I was like, okay, fine, whatever, as long as it's going to help me. Right. And, you know, on the back end, I just kind of looked at it and went, hey, look, I have this other skill besides ballroom. Like I'm really good at like coaching people. I'm really good at helping them with their mindset. And well, for goodness sakes, not only did I know how to figure out how to get me out of it, but along the way I needed to practice, and I figured out how to get a whole bunch of other people out of it, including athletes and dancers and business people, salespeople. And I was like, this is it. This is where I can make the most impact. And, you know, when I first started life coaching, people were like, you didn't tell anybody you were a life coach. Like, you don't do that. Cause like people are like, you're a life coach. You think you can help. Now it's normal. Like everybody's a life coach, right?
Dude, Michael, thank you for sharing that story. Like, I'm very curious on the athletic side of things, right? Like we often talk about this topic here where like athletes and military people, right? For, you know, we've had some conversations that they tend to be more resilient, right? They tend to put themselves out there a little bit more. They tend to execute, right? Do you think that is an element that has helped you with your show? I think like you have more than 200 episodes, right? Like with your life coaching, like just be persistent and consistent. Do you think that's an element in there? And
it's huge. It is huge. Like I cannot even begin to express the number of times that I've had to fall back on the idea that I needed a coach. I mean, from when I was 5, my mother started getting me coaching and training from the best of the best. And all the way through my amateur career, all the way through my pro career. And then as I started to go into coaching other professionals, I started to realize that these athletes, these business people needed a team of coaches. And so I was doing it, and I was being part of these teams of coaches for these championship level dancers, for these high level business people. And I was one cog in the wheel. And then all of a sudden, I hit a dead spot, and I was like, what's going on? What's wrong? And finally, it was like one of my coaches hit me over the head and was like, well, where are your coaches? Like, am I your only coach right now? And I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. He's like, well, great. So you're working on your personal development. Who's your marketing coach? Who's your prospect? Like, who are your coaches? And I just kind of hit me over the head and realized, yeah, I definitely got to go find that, and now I have a team of about 6 coaches that work on me so that I can be the best I can be every time I show up to work with one of my clients that is entrusted their world with me. Yeah. And it's a big deal, And so I think that coaching that we learned from dancing, and I played basketball when I was in high school, but it's a mentality, and we definitely picked that up from our coaches, so you missed a shot. So what? You go shoot again. Shooters shoot. That's what we do, and same thing in dance. Like, half the people on the panel don't like you, and they like their couple. And so you're constantly getting ridiculed. You're constantly having a group of people that are like, we don't like how you dance. And it's like, oh, well, we just got to keep going.
Yeah, that's that. I love that. I love the topic of coaching. There's a lot of failure in any sport that you participate in. So it is important for you to, recognize that is going to happen, and then ask yourself, how do I improve? And one of the fastest ways is getting a coach, right? Is getting that person that is going to help you out, take you from 50% of your capacity on your skill to 80%. And I say skill, right? Because this is what I'm seeing right now. You just told me, right? You started as a dancer, and then eventually through NLP, you were like, wow, now I have this other skill. This is amazing. And I remember this podcast. I actually heard this a long time ago, but it really stuck out. It was, was it the guy that has the gym membership stuff? Alex Mosey. So it was an Alex Mosey podcast, and he was talking about skill stacking, right? He says, usually you start with one, market, right? And your value then obviously is determined by how good you are on that. But you add another skill on top of that, let's say copywriting, now your value increases way more, and people are going to start seeing, wow, like the value of this person is absolutely amazing. And then you keep stacking skills until you are, perceived as, this is the one person I want to follow, right? And I see it in your journey in a very organically way. And now the fact that you told me that you have six coaches too, right? It's kind of like you're identifying in your life, which are the skills I want to cultivate, right? Which are the skills I want to grow to be able to have the best possible life. And then you go and get coaches that like the fastest path to success, right? And I'm curious, how do you go about finding those that you work, right? I mean, it takes some self-reflection, I'm sure, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm not performing good in this, I need to get better in this, let me find it, right? But what do you, when you talk to some of your clients, when you talk to people, right, how do you help them see what are their deficiencies, if you want to put it in that way?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because so many instances, it's hard to define and understand what you don't understand. And there's an old story, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they say that when Columbus arrived on the shores, the Indians that were on the shore looking out didn't see them until they were literally on top of them on the shore, because they didn't know what a boat looked like. They didn't have a clue what it was. And so as they looked out onto the ocean, it took their most, open-minded person, their shaman or whoever it was, their leader, to actually be able to see out of the box, to see that there were these people coming in a ship that they had no fathom of what it
Yeah.
was. And so, in so many instances, what happens is we have to utilize the internal references that we have that kind of indicate to us that, hey, something isn't right. I may not know what I'm looking at yet, but something isn't right.
Yeah.
And in so many instances, I think this is a challenge that the personal development market has right now. And people that try to teach personal development that aren't actually trained in it, that's a big problem. But but besides that, people are saying, well, just do this. And other people are like, I don't have that problem. No worries. But so many times when I talk to people and they're asking me, well, I don't really have an issue. And I was like, you just talked to me about 10.
Yeah.
do you realize? They're like, well, I really, is there something wrong? And I was like, well, tell me about this and tell me about that. And as I do, it's like bringing up this veil so that they can see, oh my gosh, there is a ship in the harbor. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to self-evaluate, one of the best indicators that we suck at using is our emotions. Our emotions are literally our key, our internal built-in guidance system that is literally the highest tech guidance system that we have.
Yeah.
And we spent a lifetime not learning how to use it. We didn't learn it in elementary school or middle school. We didn't learn it in college.
Yeah.
At best, in athletics or the military, they might have taught you how to utilize it. In the military, they take maybe a little bit of advantage of how to utilize it. In athletics, they try to get you to run mid-range. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Stay middle. Okay, well, those are some skills. But honestly, with this guidance system that we have, we should be operating at a much higher level than we do. And so really, that's one of the keys, is that we've got to go in, we've got to literally upgrade our internal operating system, our emotional operating system. And the likelihood is that unless you had some pretty enlightened parents, which many people do, then you might not have known about it. And even in the personal development space, they don't often talk about upgrading the system. They talk about the symptoms and how to upgrade or how to fix a symptom. I call that firefighting. And it's understandable. I mean, yeah, you got to put out the fire. There's no doubt. I mean, if we're talking athletics, okay, we're down 20. We got to put out the fire. What can we do now? But ultimately, after the game, they have to go back and go, why the heck did we get down 20? Let's dig in, because we can't keep doing that. Right.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm reflecting now on my life, and I'm like, I feel like I'm a very emotional person, honestly. But
you think?
Yeah, I'm an emotional person. But I've never actually taken the time to reflect maybe in those emotions, right? Like sit down with myself and actually start thinking, like, why do I feel like this? What can I make to change it, right? Like if I don't like it, or what can I do to feel more of this if I enjoy it, right?
Well, and how could you? Who taught you to do that, right? Like who gave you a standard operating procedure to do that? Like we're talking to a lot of business people, and we're business people, and we love standard operating procedures. It's what we run our businesses off of. It's what we sell to our customers. And when I realized that, I was like, gosh, everybody wants to upgrade their business system on how to produce a podcast or how to put out a video, or everybody wants to have a good standard operating procedure. And when you can sell a standard operating procedure, you're doing well. And so what I looked at was, hey, gosh, you could do this with your emotions, and it isn't that scary. It really isn't that scary. And when you have a standard operating procedure that you can work off of, all of a sudden your emotions now become part of your operating system that is your guidance system, so that you can actually start to see, like you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I experienced something like that. it was like with anger, right? Sometimes like we get super angry and then we just stay angry for a long time, and then everything around you starts like going south and nothing goes your way, right? And it's because we're in that emotional state, right? And we might be attracting that. And I remember our mom, which we talk about her a lot here on the show. She was like our introduction to that how to handle those emotions, right? Because
A whole new world, right?
a whole new world right there. And she's like, I guess she gave us her first, SOP on the emotional, system, right? So she was like, hey, whenever you feel angry, it's okay. You gotta acknowledge that you're angry, feel it, right? For like a few minutes and then let it go. And then like, okay, and we're talking with Al Elrod, right? Like the Miracle Morning, and he was saying he has this tattoo say, I can't change it, right? And he had like this crazy accent, and he says, hey man, like I'm gonna feel the anger quick because like I just need to get it out, right? And then I'm just like I cannot change it, so let me from now on, what's the action I'm gonna take, right? So making the connection of those two, that was not at the same time. They were like several years apart, but I remember like making a conscious decision that every time I felt angry, I was just gonna take it in, feel it, like it's okay to do it, but then almost immediately be like, okay, I cannot do anything about that situation. I don't want to dictate what happens in the future. Like, I don't want this situation to dictate what's happening in the future. So I'm going to change consciously and make that my decision internally that I'm going to, move on and move forward. Right. And I remember that was not something natural or easy to do at first. Right. It became easier as we went through. And it's something that we have to work every single day to continue to implement. Right. Sometimes even today, years after that, we find ourselves in situations where like, man, okay, hold on a second, right? Like, why am I feeling this way? It's been like 2-3 days, right? With our personal relationships sometimes, right? My wife might say something that I don't like. We might get into like an argument. Why am I feeling this way, right? And then just drive through it and accept that that's happening. And then, okay, what can we do to move forward? What can we do to solve it? What can we do to make it? So is that, for us, was our mother, right? It was our family.
Yeah, well, and in so many instances, that's really where we've learned our emotional responses from. And in some cases, we have to go back and look at it and go, is that actually suiting you? Is that working for you? Are there other ways? And hey, did you know that other people do it like this? And I would equate it to, hey, you could be a producer on YouTube, you could be a producer on Instagram, you could be totally into LinkedIn, or you could be into Facebook groups, or you can be a producer in so many different ways. And all of those different people go, it's easy. Oh, I've got 240 episodes up on my podcast. It's a piece of cake. You could run a podcast. And it's like, well, yeah, because I know how. Yeah. And if you want to know how, well, gosh, you've got to ask somebody that knows how to do it. And then I can show you how easy it is, but it wasn't easy for the first year.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was a little less than that, but I didn't actually mark it off and go, wow, now it's easy. It wasn't like that. It was just, okay, now I do what I do to make it happen. And so I think your emotional response system, your guidance system, is, like you said, something you got to work on a regular basis. As you take care of one thing, the next man up happens, right? And in sports, we deal with that a lot too. The next man up. Okay, somebody got hurt. Who's the next man up? You better be ready off the bench to be able to fill your spot and be the one that makes it work. Yeah. And I think what ends up happening is, in the other side of it, when we have something that we take care of in our life, something in our emotional operating system, all of a sudden the next man up goes, well, hey, you took care of that. Want to take care of me? Yeah. And it's like, oh, geez, I thought I finished personal developing. I got the anger thing down. No problem. And so what ends up happening is that people start searching around and they look at the people in their group and they go, well, they act like this when this happens, so I'm going to act like that too. And they don't actually know that there's a bigger pool and way to operate off of different emotions. And to be clear, not everybody's going to utilize or operate off of an emotion the same way. So there isn't a one size fits all. There is this is what we do. This is what we're after. Now let's make a personal standard operating procedure for you,
Yeah.
based off of your experience, based off of what you want to accomplish. Because you may have out there, you may have an issue with feeling depressed.
Mhm.
Okay, great. But I don't have an issue with feeling depressed. Okay, but maybe you have an issue with anger, but she has an issue with sadness. Okay, and maybe each of you would look at each other and go, why do you have an issue with sadness? Just do this. What's the problem? And all of those are little teeny keys and insight to the fact that there is an actual operating system. And if you just had some insight and you just knew how to handle those different ones in different ways, and if you had some ideas, you could create a means by which to start to now strive towards your personal legend, because now your emotions are not running you, you're running your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's the flip we've got to make.
Yeah, I love that the SOPs for you internally, like, okay, I'm feeling this. This is how I'm going to react to it, right? And I'm reading a book, Becoming Superhuman by Joe Dispenza. And he talks, one of the first things that he actually says in the book is that there is no memory without emotions, right?
Right.
So when you're talking about this right now, and I'm starting to see, okay, something happened in their life, right, that created an emotion, and then it created a memory. So then when they place themselves in a very similar situation, they relieve those emotions, right? And they go back to that memory and literally start stressing out or feeling the same way they felt back in that moment, right? So when I'm relating this to what you're telling me, is like, it's a matter of awareness too. Like, let's bring up that awareness at first, that you recognize that you are now relating this experience to the other one, and instead of getting in that loop, breaking out of that loop, right? And I see that I'm gonna just kind of like make a reference here to content, but for me, right, I was at first perfectionism, and I was so afraid of turning the camera and being on. So every time I would put the camera and start recording, I was like, oh, I'll get those same feelings, and I would get on that mental block of not executing, right? And it got to the point where we were like, okay, no, we got to remove the friction, just do it quick. And that's when we didn't think about it from the emotional perspective, right?
Like, do it quick, like execute.
Like, we got to take action, right? And we decided to go live. That's when our 45 live challenge started. But now, while you are telling me this, I'm going back and I'm reflecting on it. And I'm like, wow, that was the operating system that I came up, so I wouldn't have to go back into my memories and start feeling all those emotions that would stop me, right? My operating system was, don't go there, right? First of all, embrace that you might make mistakes, right? Mistakes are good. Now we call them samples. So let's go live. Let's try it out. And it is crazy because it becomes a muscle, right? And the more you do it, then the more comfortable you become doing that activity. So for us, for example, now we're way more comfortable going live and being silly and making mistakes, right? So
I mean, now people think I'm funny, so that helps too. So before it was my wife telling me you're not funny, so I'm like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. This is the real reason why we do the show. It's just like to show my wife wrong that I'm funny. That's all.
Of course. Well, I mean, you look at it and you realize that, and for those of you out there watching and listening, you have to ask yourself, how often do you upgrade your phone? How often do you say, oh, look, Apple just pushed out an upgrade, or Android just pushed out an upgrade? Now, I remember a couple years back, Apple pushed out this upgrade. And of course, the ones that are like, they're on top of it. They downloaded the upgrade, and many were like, oh, I want to, but there's no space on my phone. There's no space because I have filled it and there's no extra memory. So I've filled it with pictures and videos. And you know what? It needs this many gig to be able to upgrade.
Yeah.
And I'll just wait till a little later. And that's what they say. I'll just wait. What am I going to do with my pictures right now? What am I going to do with my videos? And I don't want to lose them. So I'll just wait till later and I'll clean them off later. Next thing you know, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months down the road, they're like, my phone, it's going so slow. It's not working. It's like, why won't it open? And that's what my wife came to me and did the other day. She's like, can you fix this? And I'm like, I use Android. I have plenty of space. So, but she's like, can you fix this? Of course, right? Just a little jab.
Hey,
no, but
if you're listening to this now, just put Team iPhone or Team Android.
Oh yeah, let's see it. I want to see, right?
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael. Like super like random tangent here. Like our team, like our main editor is like not Apple whatsoever. So like we have like all the equipment in the office is Apple. You see the iPad here. You see it. Like everything is that. And it's like, guys, when are you guys gonna upgrade? And we're like, we're already upgraded. Like we're Apple. Like, no, absolutely no. And
it's a constant battle.
It's a constant battle every single morning. That's a conversation. Right? Sorry. Okay. Parenthesis closed. Okay. Continue.
No. I'm with you. My operations officer, Mac. Yep. Yeah. And I'm PC. I'm like, oh, for the love. We go back and forth. So, but she came to me. She's like, can you fix it? I was like, well, you're going to have to clear some space off. She's like, well, but do we have to? I was like, how about we just put it on a drive? We'll put all your videos, all your pictures. She's like, okay, so we did that. And then I was like, okay, now we have to delete them off of your phone so that there's enough space. She's like, but I don't want to. I want to still see them. I want to still see the stories and all of my memories. Yeah. And so just stop for a second and ask yourself if you've ever done that. Right now, before I finish that, a few years back when Apple did that, they messed up and they pushed an update that destroyed so many people's phones. And it was a big deal, right? But all the people were like half of them were like, well, that's okay. I didn't upgrade it. I didn't upgrade that operating system anyway. I didn't have any space.
That was me. I was like, nope, I'm not touching it.
Now everybody waits. They're like, well, let's see for a couple of weeks because we're a little nervous, right? Well, here's the thing. We went through, we took off the ones we wanted, and I guarantee you she kept a ton of them on her phone, which of course makes sense, right? She wants her memories. She wants the videos. She wants the pictures. And think about it. When you keep so much stuff, when you keep so much of your history, and you keep so much of those videos and those pictures that you hold in your mind of things, sometimes there's no space to upgrade. Sometimes there just isn't any room. And yet you're looking around begging to those of us that you think can help. And you're going, please just help me upgrade my system. You don't know you're saying that, but that's essentially what I hear. That's what I see. And you're saying, please help me upgrade my system. And I'm like, you're going to have to clear some space because if you don't, there's no room for me to put anything in.
Yeah.
And this is a really big deal. And then it's going to take a little bit of work. I'm sorry about that. It's going to take a little bit of work because now the work isn't necessarily as hard as you think. It isn't that hard to feel good, but we have been trained that it is that hard to feel good.
Yeah, true.
And that's rough. That is rough. Right? Yeah. When I have to compete against that, when I talk to somebody and I'm like, okay, let's just feel good for a second. They go, how do I do that? How do I feel good? And I'm like, really? Wow.
We'll definitely go into the feel good because I'm very interested, right? Like, because maybe we don't know what we don't know, right? Maybe I think I'm feeling good, but maybe I'm not really feeling good, right? Good. Okay. Wow, fun. Good. It's like we're brothers.
It's like we're brothers.
For those listening, I tried to give him a high five and he just denied me. So, Team Luis, back me up here. Okay, pick up, bro. Okay.
Are you still feeling happy?
No.
No, you gotta control your emotions.
I know, I'm feeling it right now. Okay, let me feel the rage. Now I'm letting it go. Now I love you, brother. Okay,
Michael, I was testing him to see.
Live sample here. But I really love the topic of coaching, right? And the reason I do it is obviously we're athletes, right? We play soccer. I don't do much anymore. I'm like the ball. I just roll around now. But I remember like on our business experience, right? Like for the first like 3, almost 4 years, right? Which now we say it, but it was like so painful, right? It was like, man, let's try to figure these out. Like, and then we're like, free courses here, I'm free content, I'm free, blah, blah, blah. And even though the information is out there, like it was just all over the place, a lot of contradicting like messages too, right? Because we couldn't find the one message that identified with us. Also because we were trying to explore what to do. for God's sake, we started with stickers, right? And then we did t-shirts, and then we did XYZ, right? And then, what we settled was content, and now we're becoming really, really good at it, right? So, but it wasn't until we found the coach, right? It was like we started investing, and then we found that one person that, like you said, you found your person, and then it's like who coached that person, and then you went to the next one, and so on. So we had a very similar like journey, starting 2019, right? And then that year continued to growth, and then on to 2020, which has been like probably our biggest year ever, right? Personally and for the business. But it was like really challenging to get into that mindset where it's like, man, before, we assume that because I play a sport, I'm going to have a coach. But now I'm starting a business, right? Or I'm doing this venture on my own. I don't need a coach. Like, I'm going to try to figure it out, right? And it was so painful and slow. And now we look back and we're like, it taught us a lot of stuff, right? Great. But man, I wish we could just go back. I'm like, they wanted me like, okay, who's going to be your coach, man? Like, at least have that conversation. Why do you think it's so hard for people to understand that we need that coach or those 6 coaches, right? Like right now, I think we have 1, 2, 3, almost 3 coaches, right? 4, like Steve, Sean, Austin.
Yeah, 3
coaches right now. Like the same thing. It's like, okay, where are those areas that we need to level up? And then let's find that person, right?
Yeah.
And go. Why do you think it's so hard for people to at least have that conversation from the very beginning? Do we all have to go through that like painful moment to start receiving being coached?
And we don't. I mean, honestly, it's we'll call out all of the entrepreneurs listening right now. And this is why I love working with entrepreneurs, because for some reason, the startup in us, the concept, the idea is so glamorous of let's bootstrap this. We got this. We're gonna build it from scratch, right? We're creators, and so as we we call these, so I can call out the entrepreneurs, because guess what? If you're wanting to become a professional dancer, you don't even remotely consider not having coaches. If you're going to be a professional soccer player, there wouldn't even be a consideration of not having a team coach, the assistant coach, all of the other coaches, not to mention your private coach to help you get better at the thing that you're going to do. Absolutely. Like there is so few things. My daughter just wanted to take up singing. She wouldn't just go, oh, I think we wouldn't even remotely consider not getting her a coach. Yeah. There's not even a consideration. But you talk to entrepreneurs and they're like, let me get that free plus offer. I think I can do this, Here we go. And you're like, what are you doing? Then you get to personal development. And so not only in business, right, but you get to personal development. They're like, I'll read that book. And there's some ridiculous stat of how many times people actually finish the books that they start. It's like so few. I mean, it's so bad. And so that's why a classic upsale of an audiobook works so well, because once entrepreneurs start to get themselves, they go, well, okay, if I just get the audiobook, I know I'll finish it. Because at least
I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm very slow reader. Fonzie here's like reading 4 books at the same time.
But I'm a slow reader too, but I enjoy it.
He does
the
it.
page.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. I have to walk 2 huskies almost every day, like a bunch of times. So I'm like, I just multitask. I like listen to the book and walk the huskies. But that's the tool. But the same, like if that wasn't there, I would probably be a really big challenge for me to consume information that way, right? Like so.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like we all do that, and entrepreneurs are particularly guilty of ignoring the fact that they need a coach. And almost 100% of the time, everyone that's found success will go, well, it was because I found the coach. I found this coach, then I found that coach, then I found this coach, and now I am skyrocketing. And it's like clockwork. You guys know it. I know it. That's why we do our podcasts in so many instances, because we're still consuming. We're still going, oh, wow, listen to that. That's awesome. Let's get them on our podcast. Yeah. Let's share them with our audience, right? And entrepreneurs, my goodness, you guys are the worst. You're the worst. and you're the worst out there. And I'm sorry to be blunt to all of y'all out there, but if you don't have a personal development coach, and I'm saying it kind of like so that you understand, you could call it a mindset coach. You can call it a therapist if you'd like, right? And yes, there are differences. We could go into that for hours, but the point is that you have baggage and you're carrying it with you. whether you know it or not. And there is another level out there, all of you. There is another level that you can hit 100%. I guarantee it. And I don't care how good you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so good.
I stand behind your message 120%. And guys, if you want to learn more about that, just contact Michael right here.
That's so good.
Just reach out to him. I'm sure he would be extremely happy to help you out.
Yeah, start thinking about that idea of like finding your coach, right? Like, just start thinking about it. If you've never done it, like, start researching, start consuming content, right? You know, you can go to, Magic for Life and find out a little bit more about him. You can continue to stay here and Content is Profit. Absolutely. We'll be your content coaches, which, we've talked a little bit about this.
We actually talked about content coaching, which it's been an interesting idea. And we actually had another conversation about that today. So this kind of fits perfect, the perfect, scenario. But I'm curious. I want to go back to, and I'm sorry, we're like bouncing all over the place here, but I just love your phone analogy, right? It's because it just paints the image that is like, yes, we are, and I'm sorry here, but we're full of crap sometimes, right? And we do not allow ourselves to upgrade. Right.
Every time Fonzie eats lunch, he is full and then smells. I mean, what can we do? So yeah, he's upgrading every day.
Jeez, I'm sorry. Now nobody's gonna want to have lunch with me. It's not always, right?
I'm kidding. That was a joke. Hashtag that joke.
But it is important because we are not ready to open up, right? And we are not ready to take new things in and learn all these things. And I'm curious on how do you go about clearing that space, right? And again, I'm going to go back to the content world. Yeah. A lot of people are not ready to get rid of those false beliefs that are not letting them publish, right? When they know that they have to publish to grow their business, right? Like we hear a lot of the main entrepreneurs right now say, you got to publish, right? And we had that message for so long. We heard it for so long.
For like 3 years.
Exactly.
Again, same
Yet
thing.
we didn't do it, right? And it wasn't until we actually started changing those beliefs and I would say clearing up the space, right, that we started, taking action. So how do people go about clearing up the space so they can start upgrading right now?
Well, one of the big differences that I've learned through my training in the past and what some think is the right way to do is that we start focusing on what you want, which is a lot harder than you might think. And so many times I ask people, what do you want? And they're like, I know what I don't want. And I'm like, well, that's exactly why you're getting it, because you know exactly what you don't want. And so one of the ways, you're talking about clearing and I'm talking about progressing. And so one of the things I will not do and I don't do is I don't sit back and go, let's dig into your past and let's figure out why when you're 5 years old and your bike was red and you fell off of it, you realized 15 years later it should have been blue, and that's why you're not having success. I don't know, right? Like, to me, there are faster and more efficient ways of doing what we need to do to upgrade and get done. First and foremost, everything that's happened to you is important. Everything that's happened to you is absolutely 1000% necessary so that you could be here right now listening to this. Everything. And that means that leads us to number 2, which is, well, mostly your history is a lie. And I hate to be the one to bring it up to you, but your history is a complete lie. You are telling a story that has only one perspective, and that was yours. Yours wasn't correct. And if you ask somebody that was there, theirs wasn't correct, because there's always at least 3 sides to the story: yours, someone else's, and the truth. And you don't know what the truth is. Right? What was that old movie? A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth, right? And that's the thing, right? So if we go back and try to clear out your past, and I understand I'm going to ruffle some people's feathers out there, and I'm sorry,
Go for it.
Do it.
Come at me, bro, right? Like, but if if we're going back to clear out, the first thing I'm going to say is that whatever story you're telling yourself is probably a lie. So You're probably making it up. You're probably telling it exactly how you decided you were going to tell it. So let's find a new way to tell it and move on. Let's find a new meaning for it. And this is part of upgrading your operating system, is learning how to find new ways to give new meaning to your experiences, whether it's in the past or whether it's now and moving forward. We have to find new ways to assign meaning to what's going on. And here's the kicker. You are in charge. You're in charge. You have to learn to be the best captain of your ship. And the captain of the ship doesn't spend his time looking backwards while he's driving the ship forward.
Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. That is that drop the mic moment. Golden boulder moment right here. Wow, that was amazing. I mean, you guys heard the silence literally after he dropped the mic. We're like, we were in awe. And I love how you say, you got to learn how to find those new meanings, and that is very important. But that takes me back to mindset on locus of control, right? And for those that are not aware of that term, or familiar with that term, is pretty much you feel responsible for whatever happens in your life, and majority of the people actually don't feel that way, right? They have what is called an external locus of control, which is something happens to them and it was because of somebody else's fault or something else's, right? But the people that have, and they can look inwards and say, okay, this happens, right? Okay, what could I have done differently to change this, and they take responsibility. I think those are the people that can change those stories that they tell themselves, right? And they can find new meanings. And I think we touched a little bit on this earlier in the conversation, which is you don't know what you don't know, and it's gonna take certain moment in your life, right, where that's gonna click for you, right? And that's actually a question that I've been asking myself a lot when I see a few people that I know that you can see the talent, and you're like, why are you in an external locus of control environment, right? Like, you could be amazing. I mean, you're already amazing, but like, you could flourish even more. So thank you for sharing that, because I want everybody that is listening to this to just reflect right now and ask yourself, am I telling stories that are holding myself up, right? Or
back,
holding myself back. Yeah, good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Or am I telling the right story to keep improving?
Yeah.
And there's this amazing book. I've quoted it a lot of times. I mentioned it a lot of times here in this podcast, which is The Courage to Be Disliked. I think you would love this book, Michael. So it's practically a conversation between a philosopher and a kid. And the kid comes to him and he says, I heard you can prove that everybody can be happy in life. And he's like, I disagree, right? Let's have a conversation. So the whole book is literally a conversation between the philosopher and the kid. And one of the first things that the philosopher says is that people use trauma as an excuse to act the way they want. It's not that they act the way they want because of trauma, right? And when I read that, I was like, wow, that is crazy, because there's so many people that they say, oh, I'm not good at this because of what happened in the past. Like, if you already have the capacity of acknowledging what happened in the past, you already have the capacity, right? You have the capacity to give a new meaning. Oh, I found that incredible. That was a very eye-opening moment, because I started looking back and I was like, wow, how many times have I said that? How many times I have placed excuses in other things that, I could have taken responsibility of. So I had everybody to look at yourself and say, am I actually just using these events as excuse to act in a certain way? So you get to look at why. Why are you doing that? Because it's because maybe you don't know exactly what you want, right? Like what you just told me right now. Most people don't know exactly what they want. I'm going to be 100% honest. Like, if you tell me, what do you want? I'm going to be like, I want to be happy, right? I want to have a successful business. But like, if you ask me like immediate goals, I'm still searching for them, right? But I've learned that, okay, I cannot let those past events define who I am right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Michael, what would you recommend people, right? How do people feel better? Like, what's the action point there? Like, what do people have to do to feel better?
Well, I could give you the simple answer, but most people won't listen. So I can give you the complicated answer, and that might make some
Yeah.
people feel better, right? And so now you're curious, right? But let's give you the complexity of it, and
Mhm.
I'll give you a framework that I like to work off of. I call my tribe lifers, right? So at Magic for Life, all of our tribe are lifers. And so it stands for something. It's pretty straightforward. Each letter stands for something. I like acronyms. It helps me to remember
Yeah.
things, right? So the first one in this lifer framework is that you need to learn yourself. You have to learn yourself. Second one is you have to then imagine the possibilities. You have to be able to look ahead and go, I can imagine what it is I want. And you have to imagine what's possible.
Yeah.
And this is huge. You then have to free your mind. And this is, seems like this would be an easy step, but it's probably one of the more difficult steps.
Yeah.
You have to free your mind, and you see it, and people love it. Like, think about it. Doctor Strange, free your mind,
Yeah.
right? You think about like the Matrix with Morpheus and Neo, free your mind, right?
Yeah.
This is a common thing, right? We have to free our mind, or there is no possibility to put anything new in it. And that was that example of the upgrading your phone. You got to free up some space, right? Free your mind, right? And I think some people think about free as in freedom, and that is true. But when we're talking about free your mind, sometimes it's about free up some space.
Yeah.
Allow a new possibility that we just came up with in the imagined possibilities.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next piece, and this is probably what I think you were alluding to, Luis, is you have to engage your soul. You have to engage your soul, because in so many instances, we're taught math and science, and we're taught history, and we're taught formulas and SOPs, and we're taught these particular skill sets. And nobody taught us how to engage our soul. And that is a direct relationship to emotions. And that is a big piece. It's a big portion. And sometimes for some, it takes a lot more work than others. For some, I say, and I talk to them about freeing up their soul or engaging their soul. And they're like, oh, thanks for the permission. And they go.
Yeah.
And some are like, engage my soul? What are you talking about? And they're like, are we getting religious? And I'm like, no. You believe what you want to believe. And that's cool. And I respect that.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the religious side of engaging your soul. We are talking about learning how to use it.
Yeah.
And then the R, the big moment, the R, right? It's not just life, it's lifer. And the R stands for represent your experience. We have to learn to represent our experience. The stuff coming in gets put back out. And when we put it back out, we have to represent what it is that we are actually experiencing it. And how we represent it determines how we live. It determines what we manifest in our life. It determines what we are getting back.
Yeah.
This is big. And not only that, but it has double meaning. And I love the double meaning of it, because we have to re-present. We have to get present again, because so many people, like you talked about, Fonzie, are living in the past with what happened. They're still telling their stories. So many of them are trying to clear up what their baggage was so that they can keep their baggage. Doesn't make any sense. We have to get re-present. We have to get so present in the moment that we can live in that sweet spot that's right in front of us. That sweet spot that is our present.
So
and that is getting re-present. And so that's the R for lifer. So it's a nice framework, and it's something for us to remember, and it's something for us to start to go, gosh, where am I at in that framework? Do I need to learn myself better? Or, okay, no, I'm getting myself, am I lacking in the imagination of the possibilities? Or am I lacking in the free your mind section? How do I free my, or maybe I need to know more about how to engage my soul, or, oh gosh, how do I get present? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the complicated answer, only because I don't know where you're at. Luis. I don't know where you're at. So when you ask me that question, I kind of look at it and I go, ooh, he's asking me 3 different questions. He doesn't know it. Which one does he want the answer to? And so hopefully one of those you were like, that one, I want to know how to do that one.
Dude, yeah, that's perfect. And thank you so much, because again, like we get people from all walks of life. Like we recently saw we present in 500 cities, 50 countries, right? And you know, you can only imagine where, you know, everybody is. And so I really love this framework. I was like typing it down as you were saying it. I think I'm gonna put it like right next to my computer, because I think that it can be applied for every situation, right? In here, in our private life, in recreation, in things that we're learning, and rethink that and rebuild those stories. I love that represent your experience. I love that. And I remember having these conversations, you know, with my wife about sometimes we feel about something very negative, right? And this scenario that is very negative, and we just I call it polluting your mind with like this negative scenario that could happen, right? But it's not happened yet. So if we're spending energy thinking on that very negative thought, it's probably going to happen because we're putting our attention there. So why don't we invest our energy and think about the scenario that we want, right? Like, and
I remember, Wayne Dyer, one of his books, Your Erroneous Zones, he says,
so good.
Preoccupation is probably the most useless feeling you could have, because you're literally just wasting your energy in something that you don't know there's gonna not.
Yes, no, and that's so good, right? And I think, you know, it ties down to the life first framework that you just gave. It's like, okay, let's refocus, let's revision. I think wherever you stand inside of that framework, you can just always go back and choose, like, okay, I'm here, and now these are my next steps. So thank you, man. I'm assuming people can find out a little bit more about that on your show, and we'll leave all the links in just a second. But favorite question of the whole podcast.
Wait, before we ask that question.
Well, just before we get too far from it, you can get that Lifer framework. My team put together a beautiful little ebook on the Lifer framework. We'll give it to you for free. Just go to magicforlife.com/Lifer framework. It's beautiful. You'll love it. It's all there, so you don't have to remember it, and you can print it out if you want, or it'll be there on your computer, whatever you need, and it'll be.
Thank you, Michael. And for those listening, magic is with a J, so it's
with a J.
JICFORLIFE.com/ what was the slash? What was come after
/ Lifer framework? LIFERFRAMEWORK.
Yeah, we're gonna put it in the link. So all you gotta do is scroll down. If you're listening to any podcasting platform, just click in there, and you got it.
Yeah, we're gonna let the links in there for sure. I'm gonna go claim my Lifer framework for sure as well. Yes. Thank you, Michael. But before my brother asks the last question, I wanted to ask you, and this is total curiosity of mine. Do you meditate?
Every day, without a doubt, hands down. I've tried so many different methods and methodologies of meditating. I have gone through the process of doing it, then not doing it, then kind of doing it. Now in my world, every day. My daughter, it was so cute. She's 9, and she told me the other day, and I knew I had made some headway, because we were going out to lunch. I take my kids out to lunch once a week if I can.
Yeah.
And she's 9, and I said, "Tell me about your morning." And she goes, "Well, I got up and I edited my next YouTube video." She's 9, and she's like, "And then I thought about what I was going to do with school. And then I decided I'd hemitate for a little bit." She calls it hemitating. And so that's what we call it now, is we call it hemitating. And she's like, "And then I hemitated. And then so I was like, yes, I'm making some progress."
Let's go.
Dude, man, I mean, I think she's good to go, man. She hemitates and then she edits her content. Great.
Exactly right.
Like, those two things, like she's way far ahead of, you know, a lot of people out there.
Over selves or 9-year-old selves. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we were like at 9. I was like, soccer ball. You know, that's it. I'm not hemitating.
No hemitation at all. Michael, I appreciate that. You know, I'm actually right now on the stage that is doing it, and then for a bit and like testing it out. Like, and I do find it when I do it, is crazy. Like the feeling, the focus that I have immediately after meditating.
Yeah.
I actually sit down here at the office and I meditate against the wall right there.
He's like, stop talking to me. I'm about to meditate. And then Angel sits and does it. And that's his breathing.
You know,
and stuff. And I'm like, sweet.
people make it complicated, and honestly, if you can just find 15 minutes, and honestly, you're going to be hard pressed to convince me that you can't find 15 minutes. You just need 15 minutes, and you can be and experience the beautiful and amazing effects of meditating if you just have 15 minutes. And you probably should try a bunch of different things. If you'd like suggestions, I'm open to giving you suggestions. But honestly, like 15 minutes is enough. Like some people are like, it has to be an hour and under a waterfall. And I'm like, I've done that too. And yes, that's cool. But 15 minutes will do just fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, so like, it doesn't have to be rocket science.
I'm definitely going to be reaching out and, you know, exploring more about this side of meditation.
Finding the waterfall.
Yeah, let's talk, man.
I would love to find, you know, like the right way to meditate for me, right? I'm sure there's a right way for everybody, right? It's kind of like the minimal viable content. There's a different minimal viable content for everybody, the way they're going to be the best at it. And I'm sure there's a way of meditation that is going to be the best for you. So thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, to me, I've done it where I walk the dogs, and as I'm walking the dogs, I'm just going in my mind through, you know, the different thoughts that I want to make it happen during the day, right? And I just like take a breathing and it helps me, right? Because that's an activity I got to do. And for some people, running is a part of meditation, right? They just run without music, anything, and you know, they just focus on their breathing, right? And that's a way to disconnect. So again, we encourage everybody to find like their way on meditation and on content, right? Like figure out your minimal viable content, right? Figure your way to publishing. I mean, I'm sure you found it as soon as you started, you know, publishing. And that leads me to the last question of today. Wow, what a great like.
That was a nice segue.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Michael. All right.
Yeah, don't feed his ego. I was going to say, I was like,
he was like, nope.
Yeah, I was like,
nail it.
I was like,
nope.
It was all right. It was all right.
Okay. Thank you. You're so polite, I appreciate it. Okay, last question. Favorite question. Obviously, you're a master publisher. It's amazing. You know, when we met, you're like, wow, man, like this is incredible. That's a place where, you know, we would like to be, and we're heading that way. Where would you be if you did not publish?
Oh, man. You know, honestly, I just can't even imagine it now. I mean, I publish 3 times a week for my podcast. I also publish in my group, special content for just the people in my group and for our clients, right? And so like publishing is sort of the doorway to you finding your voice. It points out your shortcomings and your superpowers. You will find so much about you if you can get in and do your publishing in whatever way is the best way for you, right? My daughter writes a blog. My other daughter does a YouTube channel. They do it in the way they need to. My son is on Instagram, and I basically tell him you can use social as long as you're publishing. Be a producer, not a consumer, right? And that's the thing, you know. My 9-year-old daughter is very well spoken because of the number of videos she's published over the last year, and she's great, you know, and I can only imagine what she is headed towards because of it. My daughter is turning into an amazing writer, and she's like, but I don't want to learn the grammar. And I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter. If you read her writing, she's becoming ridiculous. At 16, she's already a philosopher, you know, like, so the things that they're doing is crazy. And, you know, each of them in their own. My son likes to talk about Fortnite, and whatever is your thing, it doesn't matter. Get out, publish, learn yourself. Then that publishing is going to make a difference. And if you're smart and if you're wise, you'll come and work with Luis and Fonzie because they got it down. They got it figured out. They understand. And right now, if you haven't made the move, you need to move. You need to get going. You need to do it and jump in.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
That means a lot. That means a lot. And you know, congrats, man, because you know, you have a beautiful family, and can't wait to see where the kiddos go, man. It's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. We'll get them on your show next, okay?
Let's go. A family episode.
Yeah, we can host it in Holly's kids activities page.
Woo.
kids activities page.
Woo. Yeah.
There you go. We'll do
Dude.
a round table. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael, where can people find you? I mean, we have, Magic for Life with J.com/lifer framework.
Yep, that's where you can get that free framework. And if you want to just see what else we're doing, you can go magicforlife.com. Our podcast is on every platform as well as YouTube. So if you are YouTube, go like and subscribe, and you can check out all the content. There's tons of stuff for everybody.
Awesome, man.
That's awesome. Thank
Sweet.
you so much.
Well, there, we're going to leave all the links right here. Just scroll down and you're going to see them right there.
Yeah.
Man,
I know I'm going to go check it out because I do want to upgrade my emotional system.
Yes.
So
Let's
you.
do it.
Thank you, Michael. I
Let's
really
do it.
Love it,
appreciate
man.
it.
Love it. Thank you for answering all the questions, being a good sport, and it was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, especially my questions. Fonzie they're very smart questions.
I want to apologize in advance for my brother jokes today, guys. For everybody that's listening, this guy, I don't know what he drank today.
So here's a little story. Like yesterday, we were meeting with one of our clients, right? And
so you have all these jokes.
I know, and he was
inside.
and I was like, we're telling the same story, and I'm like, dude, like. I really think I am funny, right? And it's like, and then I start doing some jokes, and he's like, "You are funny." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna run with it." So, I don't care. Like if you're listening and you think I'm not funny, just let me know, man. Say it to my face. Say it to my face.
Put it in the comments. Hashtag Luis that is funny or hashtag Luis that is not funny. We'll see what happens.
Pick a bro. Pick a bro. Okay.
We'll let the crowd decide.
All right, Michael, thank you so much, man. And with that being said, thank you. And go ahead and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Follow us on social media at BizBrosco.
And if you found this episode impactful and you want to, upgrade your emotional operating system, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
We're